All right, so today, day 2. You guys are gonna go through a longer EMOM warm up today. So it's a row. So make sure you have the rower set up. Then you're gonna go into Superman's, step ups unweighted, and then Nordic curls. Okay, so as you go through this, I have my clock set today for the EMOM. So here in about 90 seconds or so, you guys can just watch this one through, okay? So when you're doing this, step ups at least the first round or 2, no weight at all. Just keep body weight, super smooth, steady. On the Supermans, I do want a nice hold, maybe 2-3 seconds on each rep. Does not have to be fast on any one of these movements, especially going to the Nordics. And touching on the Nordics specifically, don't let that be one of the first 2 movements that you do. Take your time. If you have 3 of you, maybe one person just steps back for a second or they double up, right? Just so your body is more warm and really, really ready prior to going into the Nordics, right? It's very intense. Pick a rep number at the beginning, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, whatever it might be, and just do that, okay? It doesn't have to be like crazy fast or anything, a ton of reps on that one. Just trying to get the hamstrings engaged and keep the core locked in and engaged. So start here in about 10 seconds. So if you guys need to pause and set up, pause the video now. All right, 10 seconds. I will be starting with the row myself. At the 50-second mark, we'll rotate. Get up and set up. Two big things I want you to think about while you're warming up on the rower. Upper back stays tight, pulling the shoulder blades back, pull that handle right across the middle, right below the chest. Second one, make sure you're using your entire foot to push. It's not just toes, it's not just heels, using your whole foot to push off that plate, okay? Keep your posture. We're setting up for deadlifts today, getting into it, so make sure you keep that core nice and engaged. Breathe easy, breathe steady. We're switching in 3, 2, 1. Let everybody stand up, transition around wherever you're going next, whether it be Superman, step up, or anything like that. You get ready in 3, 2, 1, going right back to it. I'll do a couple Supermans with that hold.
Nope. That's my phone does.
Okay, so Superman's just a nice little hold at the top, nothing crazy. Like I say, this is a warm up for a reason. We're gonna go through 12 minutes of this. Everything you're gonna hit 3 times. So maybe you slowly ramp up, slowly add weight, slowly add a little bit more time on each and every one of these. I'm gonna do step ups next, and then I will go into Nordics for that last one. So everybody get ready to transition in 3, 2, 1. Pop up, move around. 2, 1, go. All right. Same thing like you did on the rower. Make sure that your entire foot is up on that step up, not just on the toes. I want to see that whole thing. Really getting used to that balance and engagement through the whole foot. Second, make sure you're pressing all the way up with one leg prior to the other foot stepping up on top of that bench, okay? Transition in 3, 2, 1, moving around. I'm getting ready for Nordics. Full extension here, slow, control, touch. Okay. Reps don't matter, just keep it under control, staying fully extended, engaging the glutes. Especially on the Nordics, 4 or 5 is fine on this first round, even if you need to tie off that band on the opposite side of the dumbbell rack. So you're pulling across. So if they're tied off back behind me, I'll pull it across my chest. That way, then this would give me a little modification to make it easier coming out of it. Okay. After this first round, we'll switch around, repeat everything. Think about adding about 4 or 5% effort. 2, 1. Everybody transition. 4 or 5% effort to each one of these movements. Maybe add 1 Nordic. Maybe go a little bit faster on step ups. Maybe a little bit faster on the row. Remember, on the rower, there's a 500-meter split time down there towards the left on your guys' rower screen. That number, the lower it is, so you should be aiming for the low 2s, 220, 215 for a 500-meter split or less, adding up, and just trying to get a little bit faster each time. And it's only about 45-50 seconds with transition total, moving through everything. So slowly just kind of ramp up. Heart rate should be rising. Your body should start to be warmed up. Scott's probably about to turn on the fan if he hasn't yet, and things like that. So just keep that in mind. Ways to level this up. Supermans, just think about staying extended, keeping the feet tight together, and maybe a little bit longer hold. Trying to get a little bit more height out of it. 3, 2, 1. Get ready to transition again. So what I mean more height, a little more arch in the back, trying to get the chest and thighs all the way off the ground. Starting in 3, 2, 1, go. Step ups, if you're working on step ups to make those more of a challenge, go to a Russian step up variety. So when your foot's up on top and you stand all the way up, you'll lift that opposite knee. I'll show you that here in about 20 seconds, rolling through each side. And then on that third round, that's when we can start grabbing a little weight. 15, 20, 25 pounds, hold it right underneath the chin. So I will show you a Russian step up that you guys can work on in round 2. Full foot, stand, lift the knee, okay. Notice specifically, I don't even have to actually ever touch that opposite foot. 3, 2, 1, get ready to transition. So that foot actually never ends up touching the bench or the box when you step through these things. 3, 2, 1, switch. So as you go through, guys, should be coming back through this second round. I would be going through step ups right now if I were warming up for this whole thing, and then going to that next set of Nordics. For me on the Nordics, this is where I would probably try and do a super slow one, maybe holding for like 5 to 10 seconds on the way down, really feeling the engagement, maybe even going to a single arm catch and press out of it rather than catching with both, and then adding a little bit more time under tension, so that for me, for that third and fourth round, I do a couple where I wouldn't use my hands at all going through that. So just make sure you're adding a little bit more time under tension, holding longer, especially on the Nordics. Remember, most of the time anybody can sit up, right, like this, that the work really doesn't start until you get about, 45 degrees. 2, 1, transition. So you kind of speed up to about that sticky point. That's when you try and fight and hold to the bottom. 3, 2, 1, let's move on. So this would be the last movement of your second round right now. Heart rate should definitely be up. You should starting to breathe through your mouth at this point. So just nasal breathing wouldn't be able to maintain the heart rate that you are at. Okay, so think about that. If you're not quite there and your heart rate's a little bit lower. Now, if you're working on Nordics or something like that slower, that's fine. But if you're working back onto that rower, you should be starting to breathe through your mouth. The heart rate should be coming up, body temperature is rising, things like that. So that's where we should be right now, getting into it and then prepping yourself for that final set and that final round coming through here, where everything will be about 85 to 90% effort. So it's not like we're sprinting. It's not like it's super fast or like massively taxing, but you should be warm. 2, 1. Be ready to transition for this last and final set through all 4 of these movements, for this third round. Okay, 3, 2, 1, begin. So especially on the rower. I'll just touch on everything real quick for about a minute. So on the rower, making sure you're getting a little bit more leg drive. You should start to feel the quads, potentially the arms, and maybe a little bit in the lower back, depending on how tight or fatigued it is. If you are feeling any pressure to the low back today, stop, take a couple seconds, maybe a minute or so, and do some press ups before, after your sets of deadlifts, maybe even after every round, okay? As you go through. So do not be afraid to do that. Keep the low back loose and strong and in those positions, okay, as we roll through here. So on that rower, you should be out of breath. You only got about 10 seconds. You're talking about 3-4 more pulls. Really, really engage, drive through the legs, try and jump off the foot plates. Handle should be coming down in 3, last pull, 2, 1, handle down. Good. Transition round, you're getting ready for either Supermans or step-ups, or some of you might be on Nordics already. 3, 2, 1. Begin. Okay. Supermans, these should be super high right now. This could be a good time where you add in maybe a Cobra, maybe do one Superman, little hold, maybe you do a Cobra press up, open up the hips, the low back, get everything ready to go, and things like that. If there's anybody at this point that wants to do anything special as far as warm-up stretches, maybe do some leg swings, maybe need a couple rotations just to open up the low back, maybe go for a little hang on the pull-up bar. This last round is the round to do it in because your body is now warmed up. It's ready to be stretched out and ready to move around. If you do it beforehand, that's great, awesome, but you're probably not going to stay in that elastic position just because your body wasn't ready to change or make that modification to itself quite yet. Okay, so 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. You ready? Moving around. Step ups. If you want to, you can always go with the weighted and Russian variety. 2, 1, and up. Just make sure we're getting that full drive through that heel and the toes on the way up. That way, biggest thing why I keep preaching about pushing through the heels is because that is where most of your balance, strength lies, and it's getting ready to turn on everything in that posterior chain. Posterior chains, hamstrings, calves, butt, low back, especially everything that we're going to be using for deadlifts coming up next year. Okay, so making sure that that stuff is the stuff that you are turning on and not just using the toes. Because your quads are warm, great, awesome. It's good for hip flexors and quads and running and things like that. But all of a sudden, if you're going to go try and pull a heavier deadlift off the floor and you're all quad heavy, well, that's going to put a lot of pressure on your knees. So everything's going to be pushed forward, and that puts more pressure on the low back. So I like to always make sure you are rooted through the heel first. 2, 1, get ready to transition. Last movement, this should be coming up in Nordic curls. This should be your most intense effort on any one of these movements. 3, 2, 1, go. Yes, no. Okay, so last minute, you guys should be knowing what you're doing at this point. Finish up strong. After you're done, I'll talk about deadlifts and your next superset circuit. Should be about a 2 to 3 minute rest time after this warm up. Grab a quick sip of water, start grabbing weights, get things ready to go, warm up, and we'll roll into it, okay? So finish up. This one, you will go all the way to the final beat. Okay, so not just stopping at 50 seconds because there's no transition unless you were waiting on a third or fourth person to finish up. If you are, get that transition out of the way. 10 seconds is not going to make or break anything, but just learning how to finish the set. 20 seconds left. Three, 2, 1. Okay, clock's off at this point, so everything's going to be up to you guys as far as timing goes. As you are resting and getting water and things like that, just make sure you pay attention. 3 rounds. These are going to be 3 active sets. We talked about that last week. So remember, if you are warming up, those don't count as your active sets. Okay, you have 12 deadlifts. When you're done with all 12 deadlifts, we're going to go into 6 airplanes on each leg, so again another 12, and then we're going to go through this time 24 heavy calf raises. Okay, so probably the weights that you took off the dumbbell rack to use for Nordics, those are the ones I'd grab. 40, 45, 50, one in each hand. We've all done calf raises before. Get those heels up off the ground. We'll talk about that, okay? I just want to talk about deadlifts mainly as you're warming up and as you are getting set up. First, hands should be right outside the hips. wherever you set up. I like to do is roughly called our clean grips. You are thumb distance away from the hips. So as I step back, and I set my feet where I like to jump from. So wherever you like to jump, if you're to jump up and down, wherever they land and stay, that's where you're going to typically be your most powerful from, where your deadlifts are at. So my hands are still thumb distance from my hips. As I set up in the bottom, feel the weight in the heels. What ends up happening here is that my hands right where my knees are pushing on the arms, okay? And as I set up this direction, what you see is a straight line. You know, my knee is right covered with my hand, but this is a straight line. The edge of my knee and the edge of my arm are touching, okay? Still in that same position here. Still my heels, back's nice and tight, pulling my shoulder blades back and away, and I pull that bar up my legs. You can notice how I keep my back ankle here, and you pull up the thighs, okay? Still tight, that's why my shoulder blades are back. It's neutral. When I go down, push your butt back first, then the knees bend slightly. From here, my arms are just hanging down from my shoulders, but I'm still pulling back in, so it's tight to my body, and then I just go straight down my shins. Hit those plates on the floor. Okay? Your whole body should be flexed. You should be thinking about flexed arm, pulling the bar back, chest out, glutes on, hips forward, abs tight. So everything, as long as there's tension in your entire body, the bar is going to move smoothly no matter what the weight is. Even if it gets too heavy, you have tension. If you start to break tension or form to pull through that, that's when you need to back off a little bit, because wherever you are weakest at, so if your low back starts to get tight, that's where you're weakest at, okay? If your legs start to shake, that's where you're weakest at. When you build up these compound movements, bench, squat, deadlift, things like that, those are the ones that will go first, meaning the weakest muscles, okay? So warm up, do about 5-6 reps with just the barbell. Everybody, add a little weight, another set, maybe 5 to 6 reps. One more warm-up set. This one I do about 3 to 4 reps on. You should start to feel the weight, like, oh, okay, that's how I felt the weight on that 4th rep. Now you're ready. On set 4, after 3 warm-up sets, set number 4 should be your real active working reps, real working weight, okay? 12 of them. When you get done with all 12, get that bar out of the way. Our airplanes, that's that single leg airplane. No weight on this one. Stand on one foot. Find your balance. As you lean forward, back foot comes up. Hands out to the side if you want to. Rotate the hips open. And then rotate the hips closed. And then stand. Okay? Goal will never touch this other foot to the floor as you rotate through. So that would be 2. You're going to try and do all 6 on one leg, all 6 on the other. If that's super easy and you do it, grab the Bosu ball. Okay, that's that ball that balances. Put the blue side down, flat side out. See if you can do your airplanes standing on a Bosu. I'm going to go grab one real quick. Okay, this is not your version of a Bosu, but it's a balance board. Okay, same exact thing. Round side down here. Just try and do it without touching the sides. So I'll do a couple airplanes on with this real quick, and then you're going to go into 24 weighted calf raises. Stand up tall, 1 dumbbell in each hand. Make sure you're still locking in the posture. Get up as high on your toes as you can. Back down, bounce. Little tap. Okay? 24 of them. Keep your grip tight. You're going to get a little grip out of it, as well as calf raises. We've all done those before. 24. I'm going to go over these since we've already touched on deadlifts enough, I think. So make sure when you step up, you find your balance first on that one leg. Okay, I know the rower's kind of wagging. Quick. Okay, so you set up on one leg first. Comfortable with the balance here, so we're not just leaning all on one. Find your balance, find something to look at right out in front of you. Lock it in, stabilize. through your 6 on one leg, 6 on the other. If you touch, no big deal, but the goal is to not touch as much as you can, right? 3 round through, feel free to add a little weight on the deadlifts if you want to. The calf raises should be pretty much as heavy as you can hold on to. Your calves are going to be stronger than your grip most likely. When you get through that for 3 rounds, now the fun part begins, okay? Lightweight on this one, but very challenging. You have 3 total sets. 30 seconds in a weighted wall sit. The dumbbell's going to sit right underneath your chin. You're going to sit against that wall, hit that wall sit. Once you hit 30 seconds, take a step forward. Clock is still going to be ticking. 30 seconds, goblet squats. Set it down, and then 30 seconds of jump squats. Okay? Now, notice on my jump squats, I know your leg's going to be fried at this point, but they'll want you to come out of your jump and go immediately into the squat. Okay? What I don't want to see is this. Okay? I know eventually that's going to happen, and that's okay, but try and minimize that. Rest together, if you're doing this on your own, should be about 2 minutes. Rest, repeat. Don't change the weight. I know you're going to want to. I don't care how many reps you're getting on the goblet squats or the jump squats, but keep the weight the same. Challenge yourself. I recommend 20, 25-pound dumbbell. Jess, if you're doing it, or if you have another lady in there, 10 to 15. Scott, if you do happen to pull Andrew in, this is a great one for him to do today, doing probably that 10 to 15 as well, okay? Remember, 30 seconds, weighted, just on the wall, 30 seconds, weighted goblet squat, set it down, 30 seconds, jump squats. Just enough to get the feet up off the ground. We are gonna roast the thighs, okay? 3 sets. And that will be you guys' second day today. Making sure you're moving around. Don't just sit after today. It's gonna hurt, not hurt, but it's gonna be worse, and it's gonna make that soreness more painful, okay? Day 2, good luck, guys. If you have any questions, you know where I'm at. You can contact me after 4:30 p.m. Throughout the week or on weekends and stuff like that, whatever you guys have with questions. If you text me before that, I won't have my phone. I won't be able to get to it until about 4:30 each day, okay? So there you go. You guys will be seeing this on Sunday evening, and it'll be out. So good luck.